All right. Um, so let's get a little bit of background of you. Briefly describe how you make money in real estate and how long you have been doing it.
Let's see. I think it might be helpful for you if I explain a little bit about my background.
Mhm.
So I'm the controller. Actually, I just got promoted to director of accounting and treasury
Oh,
for an online
congratulations.
thank you, for an online streaming company. And so I have a bachelor's in accounting and an MBA in information technology. So the reason that I mentioned this is that will give some context to some of the things that I say, and probably will also help you to understand why I asked you so many questions about what exactly your position is. We
Yeah.
do have consultants that work for our company, and of course, I've been a consultant in the past.
Okay.
So I always like to understand the context of with whom I'm speaking.
Yep.
So how I make money in real estate, I'm a long-term buy and hold investor. And I'm pleased to say that I come from a very long line of buy and hold investors. My grandmother's sister never really worked, but she owned a series of apartment houses. My mother also bought some raw land in 1965, and she gave that property to me when I was quite young, only about 18. And that's really the basis for what I've been able to achieve today. So how I make money in real estate. So I took that property, which was up near Canada. I subdivided it. I split off the back 5 acres and I bought a fourplex in Portland.
Okay.
And then concurrent with that, I was also, or I would say what enabled me to do that was I joined a real estate education and investment company. And I got some education, information. It was kind of like a mentoring club too. And so I learned a lot from that group, and that enabled me to do this 1031 exchange. So anyway, that property I can say has done very well. It's more than doubled in price, and it's cash flowing. Mm-hmm. So concurrent with that, I also set up my Delaware Series LLC for asset protection because I had the unfortunate experience of being sued. Actually, my parents got sued when I was really quite young. I would say, like around 17 or 18. And it was really a horrendous experience. And then I got sued later in life in conjunction with one of my jobs also. Oh. I had even left the company and they still named me in the lawsuit. So those were both very unpleasant experiences, but let's make some lemonade out of our lemons. And I can say that it made me very aware of asset protection. So so that's one reason, motivating factor, why I set up the Series LLC. So let's fast forward to today, or to a year ago. I was able to sell the final acreage that had been left to me, and I did another 1031 exchange into a single family home in near Virginia City, Nevada, in northern Nevada, and I'm renting that out right now. And that property cash flows because I don't have a mortgage on it. And so my plan there is to rent it out for a few years and then to move into it, convert it to my personal residence, and thereby help to erase the very large capital gains that I'm carrying. So that is how I'm making money in real estate.
Yeah. All right. So what do you think has been the biggest impact of working with us?
That's a very good question. And I have to say that I am truly, truly grateful to Scott, to Megan, to Pete, to the whole group. I happened to come upon, I found out about Royal Legal because I was watching a video from my CPA, Keystone CPA. And I started listening to this video, which is featuring Scott, and he's like laying out the whole, his whole temple, right, of asset protection, right? This card,
Yeah.
right? I saw that and I'm like, oh my God, this guy is like one-stop solution for everything. And
Okay.
plus I really liked how he put it all together, right? So I had elements of this, obviously. I knew about tax strategy. Obviously, we're already working with, Keystone. I did understand about insurance, about liability and separation. But other factors I wasn't aware of, like anonymity, right?
Mm.
And of course, we did have a trust, so I was familiar with, legacy planning. So for me, how I describe it is, I am building my castle and my legacy, right? So I already have like the main structures in place. I have some, investments that have and are performing well, real estate investments. I have the LLC, but now it's time for me to pull up the drawbridge, right? By anonymity. And it's also, to put the overarching cap of the legacy planning in place. So I consider myself to be building a castle, of course, not just for me, but also for my heirs. And I've been very lucky that I have a couple members of my family who are really good business people, very sharp, very astute. And so, over the years, I've been, giving them small amounts of money or small amounts of help when they could really leverage it. Because one of the books that I read was called The Millionaire Next Door. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this book, but it said essentially, first of all, it pointed out that a lot of people that don't look like millionaires, like maybe your next door neighbor, actually have considerable wealth, and this is how they did it, right? They had a business, or they were a professional, they were frugal, they invested their money, they didn't spend extravagantly, right? And they pointed out in this book that one of the problems with the next generation is, if you really, really spoil people, the next generation, then they never learn to stand on their own 2 feet. It actually really hampers them. So you shouldn't spoil them. But what you should do is you should not wait until you're dead and give them money. Give them money now, smaller amounts, while you're alive, while you can coach them and help them and really enable them to leverage the efforts that they've already put, right? And so that's what we've done. We gave members of my family, and are still giving, money for school, to start a business, to put a down payment on a house, right? So we consider ourselves to be partners with them. And as the Dutch proverb goes, it is better to give money with a warm hand, right, while you're still alive, than with a cold dead hand, meaning after you're dead, after you're gone. So that's really, what our philosophy and approach has been. So to get back to what Royal Legal Group has done, again, I had some of these elements in place, but having been in Singapore for 10 years, I was really kind of out of touch with, I would say, current tax and legal pronouncements or rulings. I hadn't been in a group of like-minded people. And so as soon as I saw this video, I went and Googled, Royal Legal, and I found, wow, you guys have this like whole offering. It is what I would call a universe, right? Or an ecosystem, right? The company that I work for is owned by a big Japanese conglomerate. We talk about our ecosystem, right? So we want to get customers in, and then we want to keep them in that ecosystem using the various services that are offered by our group of companies. And of course, always with the idea of enriching their lives, right? So in the same way, I believe that Scott has built this ecosystem. And for me, it's super convenient. Like, I transferred our trust from the other lawyers that did it to Royal Legal. As soon as this tax season is over, I want to transfer our taxes, right? I've already talked with Randy about getting the land trust set up, and I have an appointment actually next Friday to work on that. So now I don't need to go to a bunch of different service providers to get what I need. With Royal Legal, it's all in one place. And then it's not just that the services are all in one place. It's that, Scott and Gina and the rest of the team are offering free education, right? And they're creating this, of course, through the Royal Life Group. It's very much that mentoring and accountability group that I enjoyed so much, 20 years ago. So to me, the educational component is not just the attraction, not just what brought me in, but also it's going to keep me here, because this little blue book, I spend like 15 minutes to a half an hour with it every single morning.
Really?
And the result of this, being involved with this group, have been nothing short of, I don't want to use the word miraculous or life-changing, because I did know some of these, but I would say it has re-energized me.
Oh, that's nice.
Right? Yeah, it's simply, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful I happened to come across this group. I was so grateful that I joined the Royal Life Group. I'm so happy to attend, whatever programs I can that are offered throughout the week. And it has made a phenomenal, that's the word I'm looking for. It has made a phenomenal positive impact on my mental state, my outlook, my ability to execute, because now I feel like I'm back in a circle, that ecosystem, right? I'm floating around, not floating, I'm circulating around in the ecosystem. And I believe that this will really help me achieve my long-term goals. And that means that it won't just impact me, it's going to impact the next generation. And hopefully they will be able to impact the next generation. So I think the positive benefits, the cascading benefits of this cannot be underestimated, right? Royal Legal Group and Scott changed people's lives for the better by giving them the tools, the skills, and the service providers to help make it possible for people to more easily achieve their goals.
Mm-hmm. So it was the one-stop shop that first got your attention, and then the education and the network, of course.
Yes, and again, it wasn't just the education; it was that the education was free, right? So a lot of people poo-poo free education. Oh, nobody will take it seriously if you don't charge for it. You should always charge at least $10 because that gets people to attend. But for me, the fact that Scott and Gina were focusing, they of course had the structure, they had the services, but they took the time to help people focus on what really matters, which is your mindset and your skill set, and of course having that network of like-minded people, because our business can only grow if we grow, right? And because I've done a lot of self-improvement classes and focusing on how do I achieve my goals, how do I become more efficient, more effective. The fact that Scott has such a wide knowledge in this, and because how he explained, hey, I went to all these seminars, but then 2 weeks later, nothing had really changed, and he realized what was missing. What was missing was the implementation, the daily work, the group of like-minded people, the accountability that we get through that, the constant education, right? So that's where this book, to me, it's like really, really important to me. It's like, probably next to my Bible, this is one of the most important books to me, right? Because it gives you the tools to help keep yourself on track, to help track your progress, to acknowledge what your what progress you're making, to take a look at what's holding you back, right? He has a very, very structured plan for you to learn and grow. Okay. Right?
Yeah. All right. So where did you first hear about us, and what piqued your interest?
Well, as I mentioned originally, I was watching I'm a client of Keystone CPA.
Yeah.
And so I was watching, they have some education for their clients.
Yeah.
So, I'm a controller at work. I've recently moved back to the US. I'm like, I got to, get up to speed on, the latest tax because I've been out of touch for a while. So I started watching their videos, and he was on one of the videos. And as soon as I saw this, as soon as he started talking and I saw this, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I need. He's got everything. Right. And so it was the fact that he had this structure, but then he offered so much education. I like I said, I Googled him, I went to the site, and I'm like, he has all these videos that are for free. And I started watching them, and that's how I learned about the Royal Life mentoring group. And because I was in one of these before, like 20 years ago, and it was really, really helpful. It was very motivating and powerful. Then I immediately signed up for that. And as soon as I signed up for that, then, I learned about the other educational groups like the Royal Tax, the Royal Investment. And then, you could really see that it was a very compelling offering.
So why did you decide to do business with us?
First of all, I think Scott establishes a lot of credibility by talking about the foundational, mental approach, mental training, emotional training. So he establishes a lot of credibility through his personal story and through what he talks about on the Royal Life groups, right? He told his story. Hey, I was a lawyer. I was, doing investing. Then I started going to these meetup groups, and people asked me, oh, can you help me with this? He also said, hey, I was going to, Tony Robbins seminar, whoever. But then I something was missing, right? And he realized that what was missing, were the elements that is in the Royal Life group and in the little blue book, right? And he created that and produced that. So that is that gives him a lot of credibility, because I feel that he's not just in this for the money, right? And other service providers that you go to, they may offer some education, but they don't offer one-stop shop, right? They don't offer it. And so that was really what was compelling to me.
Okay, great. So how likely are you to recommend us?
110%. I've already talked to several of my friends. One is a young guy who's just getting started in real estate. And I'm like, dude, let me tell you, you want to have a niche where you can really offer something that can help your clients, whether they're just, buying single family homes or whether they want to create something else. You need to attend these meetings, and they're free. You won't get this kind of education anywhere else. So I shared all the information with him, but it's like the tyranny of the urgent. I haven't seen him attend yet, but hey, you can lead a horse to water. You can't make it drink. It's his business, right? Another is a woman that I've known for a long time who's a fellow real estate investor. And I think she'll be attending the Royal Life group on Monday. Yep, I already sent her the PDF copy, and I think even Gina sent her a little blue book, right? Because I asked Gina to send it to her, and Gina did, right? So she and I have been having like regular accountability meetings, my friend and I, every Sunday, because we used to do that before I moved to Singapore. And she has already thanked me, thank you for helping me get back on track.
Nice. Yeah. So what do you think about the weekly calls?
I think that they're invaluable. The first most important one, of course, is the Royal Life group, because if we can't grow, our business won't grow. So, and a lot of times people don't realize how their own emotional state is hampering them, right? And so, or maybe how, like a recent class was on fear. I like to think of myself as a fairly fearless person. I packed up and moved to Singapore 10 years ago, no problem, right? Not everybody would do that, especially at my age, right? So I was already past 50 when I did that, but I'm like, let the adventure begin, right? And we had a grand time.
Yeah.
And so I like to think of myself as fairly fearless, yet in examining my challenges and my feelings during this class through the methodology that Scott provided, I find that, oh yes, I actually do have fear. So it's one thing to acknowledge your feelings. The second thing is, how do you work through them in an intelligent manner? And Scott's teachings give us the skill set to move through that. So they give us the skill set to learn new skills and to manage our emotions, manage our priorities, etc. Right? So even though I've been doing this, for a long time, and I was in that mentoring club before, I don't think that they ever talked. They talked somewhat about these subjects, so I do have some understanding, and I do have some self-awareness and some emotional management skills. But at the same time, I have learned things through the Royal Life Group that I didn't know before, and the same thing could be said about the tax and investment, right? I mean, I'm an accounting professional. As I mentioned several times, I've been doing this for a number of years, so I do know something about tax, obviously. But, the ability to have resources, to know that if I had a tax question, I could ping Pete, and like I said, I plan to switch all our tax stuff over. In fact, I'd like to start the planning process this year, and then as soon as we finish filing our taxes, boom, I'm done with Keystone. I'm moving. Right?
Yeah.
Because I want to have that coordinated ecosystem.
Yeah, of course.
And not have to explain like, my strategy to this service provider, to that service provider. With Royal Legal, it's just one ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly. So why should someone listening to this take action and join Royal Legal?
Because it will transform your life for the better. End of story.
Great. Fantastic. Okay, thank you so much.
I think the question was, one question that you want to ask is, what is one thing that I need help with, right?
Yes.
What is one thing that the Royal Group could help me with?
Mm-hmm.
So as Scott was describing in just a recent call, a lot of us have always been focused on net worth. And what we really need to do is we really need to shift that net worth into passive cash flow, right? Now, obviously in the past, I mean, I've been in some syndications, I've had a self-directed IRA, et cetera. But now, especially since I've just come back from Singapore, I need help with that, right? And I'm still working full time. So, I have a limited amount of time that I can spend on what I call my own business every week, right? I try to spend at least an hour every day on it, sometimes more, sometimes less. But if Scott and the rest of the team at Royal were to be able to create some investment opportunities, whether that's syndications or whatever, I'm sure that they would get a lot of interest.
Great. Yeah, great advice. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay.